Welcome everybody back to the Culminating Experience presentation for the 2020 continuing class, and this is the second presentation we have today of Nadia Washington. Nadia, I'm going to read a little bit of your biography here. Nadia Washington, a touring singer, songwriter, and educator, has performed with artists including Esperanza Spalding, Diane Reeves, Terry Carrington, and more. The native of Dallas, Texas, and Berklee alumna, is now a faculty member in the Air Training, Voice Department, and the Berklee Global Jazz Institute as well, and is now recording her album set to be released in the near future. Her beautiful presentation is Turning Within. We welcome our panelist, Pamela Blau, and I was their advisor for the last year and a half, and it's been incredibly rewarding. So Nadia, if you all set, you can start.
Greetings to Danilo, Marco Pignataro, esteemed faculty, and Berklee Global Jazz Institute community. I am delighted to share the Turning Within project. The passion that fueled this project came from a need of more advocacy for mental health, especially during times of racial injustice, a global pandemic, and mass hysteria. To set the tone of this presentation, I'd like to share a quote. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Carl Jung. The Turning Within project explores the idea of interlacing Jungian psychology with the creative process to heal transgenerational trauma, and with further study and research, create a composition technique to share with other creatives seeking artistic and personal growth. My personal and initial mission was to find a way to spark my creativity, in addition to integrate my underutilized passion for visual and expressive art forms into a singular form of expression, and develop a deeper understanding of the healing powers of music. The artistic influence are from the following composers: Samuel Beckett, playwright; Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, composer; Gene Lee, jazz vocalist and composer; Anthony Braxton, composer; Toru Takemitsu, composer and film score; and John Cage, composer. Carl Jung was a pioneer of analytical psychology who heavily influenced religion and philosophy. And unlike Freud, Jung believed there was an ancestral memory within the unconscious that has influence on the personal unconscious. In 1916, Jung conducted an experiment of exploring his own unconscious mind that lasted for 6 years, resulting in what is called the Red Book. Exactly 50 years later, the study of epigenetics has proven psychological trauma and behavior can be inherited through the DNA. The goal of his practice is individuation or integration. And these are the tools that he used to incorporate all of the works to study and uncover what is in the collective unconscious, which is active imagination, a method of assimilating the unconscious content, such as lucid daydreaming; word association that has been repurposed for creative prompts, and then in addition to using tetrachordal theory to give tone sets and sound colors to the archetypes and symbols. And when you utilize all of these tools, archetypes such as characters and symbols reveal themselves to you, and the medium used to give voice and sound to the archetypes and symbols are voice acting, poetry, monologues, graphic design and scores, and Foley sound effects. So for my self-analysis, we come up with the Turning Within project, and the result is an oral imagining of being a captive during the transatlantic slave trade. Each movement represents phases of the healing process using chemical archetypes. And the graphic scores depicts association with anatomy. And the musicians that participated in my project include Eli Heath on bass, Tyson Jackson on drums, Edmar Colon on sax, Chase Morn on piano, and of course myself. So the first movement, the archetype that presents itself is the captive/captor. And within the collective unconscious, the potential captive is hiding out from being captured and taken to the Americas. And within the personal unconscious, which is the inverse parallel, self-preservation becomes a menacing inner critic, which is the archetype of the captor.
Be quiet. Right there. Hear you. Too far. Don't you want to be safe? It's too far. Status. 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 Status quo. Status quo. Status quo. Chase it. Never. Stick out. Never. Blend in. I'm running. Always blend in. Blend in. Never catch up. It's too far. The other way. Keep the footsteps growing quiet. Then reach. Reach. I can't reach. Nothing. I got it. What is it you want from me? What is it you want from me? What are you trying to tell me? I don't understand. I can't understand what you're saying. I can't make the words out. I don't understand. She refused to confuse me. Why are you confusing me? It's confusing me. Triggered, maladaptive disposition, muddled, multiply, off-putting, triggered. Tripwires spread across a fragile facade, covering boarded up, fragile, keep out. Field over bursting at the seams, coping, bottled, angled, downward, open, spilling, overflowing faucet, irrigation of modality. It didn't work before, never worked. Pharmaceutical predictions, void coping mechanisms, triggered, inhaling stagnant air trapped in catacombs of misery, catacombs of memory. Flashing light, blinded crumble, fortitude, a rhythm, tripwire, misstep, crashing, falling back, flash.
Movement 2, the captor as trickster. Within the collective unconscious, the potential captive is marked by hounds and trying to escape with great stealth. Part 2 represents how solidarity and protest began to create change during the civil rights movement. And within the personal unconscious, this is the manic phase of healing, where the trickster/ego is trying to prevent the process of healing.
Breaks your back, then ain't it good for something? There's no need to meander around, lurking, searching. Just let sleeping dog.
Within Movement 3, the captive is captured. Within the collective unconscious, the captive finds themselves bound in a cargo ship filled with fear and trepidation of what's to come. Within the personal unconscious, which is the inverse parallel, the captive is facing shadow and darkness, experiencing guilt, shame, powerlessness with the need to surrender.
Bruised wrist. Ankles bound by image economy. Nerves singed. Perpetual intrusion forced to lay me down. With cannibalistic passion, capitalizing zany trills of naked selfhood.
Within Movement 4, the captive finds freedom and comfort. Within the collective unconscious, the captive is acquainted with the healing essence of water. And within the personal unconscious, the captive is on the path to transformation, healing, and intimacy with self.
Climb the ladder downward way. Solid place to rest your plane. Floating never attitude. The weight, arid roots abound, feeling full.
And within Movement 5, the captive turned native has reason to dance. Within the collective unconscious, the native is reconnected to heritage. And within the personal, has gained a healthier perspective on trauma. Mother, cast the vacant winds down, swooping balm, alleviate the pain. Cradle us as the forefathers did, upheaval no avail, unprivileged, seeking for naught, answers to the question. Hush the rattled cages placed in our thoughts, yoke of responsibility not our own, bridled steer with no place to go, still goes unnoticed, still nowhere to go. Mother, mother, sing. Mother. Oof, excuse me. All right, pardon that. Well, moving on, so Movement 6. The archetype is the native on the path to wholeness. Within the collective unconscious, the native is connected to a higher truth, an identity, and responsibility. And within the personal unconscious, has a new level of awareness.
Starting
And so my plans are to learn more about Jungian psychology, and by 2024, conduct further research to develop a creative practice and work on a journal, creating a journal, and workshopping a live performance. And by 2025, I'd like to tour this project and give workshops on the practice to spread awareness of mental health. So in conclusion, I I learned how to think outside of the box artistically, break my creative habits, learn more about my inner world and process transgenerational trauma, and gain a deeper understanding of Jungian psychology. I'd like to extend gratitude to all my advisors. Thank you so much for helping me make this project happen, in addition to the musicians. Thank you all so much for your time.
Congratulations on this wonderful presentation, and
thank you.
I would like for you to actually present your panelist, since she's not a member of our community, so everybody knows. And then Ms. Blau, you have the word, first word after Nadia will present you.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Pamela. So I'd love for everyone to meet this kind soul that has been helpful in my learning process when it comes to Jungian psychology. Everyone, please meet Pamela Blau, who is also a classically trained violinist who has toured the world, and we had the pleasure of meeting during this time. So I'll give the floor over to you, Pamela.
Thank you, Nadia. The presentation was so beautiful. I mean, I've seen it in many stages over the last year and a half, and it has really come together. I couldn't even have imagined that it would be this. It's just so creative and amazing. I feel like it's an amazing way that you have integrated, you know, both the Jungian concepts of personal and collective unconscious, and your own stunning creativity and the visuals. You know, there's just so many aspects of it. And I remember when you first called me and spoke about wanting to use Jungian psychology to work with the artist, work with the composer. And I know it has come from your own, your own personal journey and what you talked about as some of your creative blocks. And I know that we worked with, at first we met, on I think it was weekly basis for a short time, right? Was that back in the fall of 2000?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we tried we used different techniques. We were really talking about Nadia's own creative process and, what can be sort of, what from Jungian psychology could be helpful. And so I remember we did the word association experiment, which is one of the sort of very classic things that Jung did very early on in his career, which is basically saying words and having the person give their association. But we did it, Nadia was with her guitar. And so she was also doing her own sort of compositional associations, which turned out to be a really amazing experience, I think, for both of us. And so that was the beginning. And we went through various ways of looking at Jungian psychology. And then Nadia went off on her own during the whole pandemic and did a whole course on Jungian psychology through, I can't even remember what, an extension school, something?
So it is a Zur Institute, yes, an extension school.
So yeah, I mean, that's the same place I studied.
Ah!
I mean, I went through the Institute, but so it's just been, I mean, it has been an incredible journey. And this final product, it does seem to do exactly what you set out to do, which was incorporate some of your underutilized, interests and talents, and also integrate some of the concepts. So I am just thrilled with where you are and hopeful for the world to have this new kind of work using Jungian psychology and music, bringing this together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you so much for your time and patience with me and learning the fundamental concepts. I'm so grateful.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Marco.
Thank you for being here, Miss Flower, and for your comment. Nadia, I'm gonna go next as your advisor. I have to congratulate you. I can, we were speaking before how exciting has been to be part of this journey. When that from our first meeting, we were trying to understand, how to put all this idea into something, and it has evolved so much, right? And now you have this project that kind of like touch, upon borders with music therapy, psychology, music, creativity. So there's so many questions that I'm sure they're gonna pop up in this presentation, but I want to ask you specifically about your graphic score that in itself are, I would like to hang in my house because they're like beautiful work of art.
Thank you.
Tell
Thank
us
you.
maybe if I don't know if you want to show them again, but can you
Okay.
expand a little bit on the process and how you use these graphic scores?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to share the screen so you can we can reference them again. Okay. Well, I did a lot of digging and learning, and I give a lot of thanks to Josh Rosen, who is of course on Berklee faculty, and we just spent a lot of time looking over different graphic scores, and in the process of figuring out how do I do this, but not in an intentional way, not in a way where I'm going to do this and I'm going to add this and we're going to make this happen, because that goes against the principle, which is, all of the creativity is coming from the subconscious mind. So I just spent a lot of time just looking at different graphic scores, including George Crome, the 12 Fantasy, the Zodiac for piano. He was also inspired by Jung, and his score was oriented in also a circular manner like this, as well as Toru Takemitsu, his famous graphic score, Corona, ironically, that's the name of it. Corona graphic score, which is more minimal, and it's just very beautiful. And so I kind of landed somewhere in between. And the idea is this particular movement can be performed any direction. So, any person can start and even read it upside down. So it was interesting when the musicians got a hold of the score. I saw a lot of this occurring, and that was really cool, because it's like I want them to figure out how to navigate the score. And of course, oriented around it is the monologue, which was inspired by Samuel Beckett, the playwright there. In particular, his monologue, Not I just loved how he organized the words to create such frantic rhythm, and with his monologues. It's a one-woman play, and so I kind of drew experience from or drew influence from Samuel Beckett's style of writing. But this was all using free association, so no edits, no going back, just write. All right, and so and then of course you'll see the poem to the side, which is a part of the neck that's representative of the neck. That's kind of like the free association with, um, when it came to the inspiration of the sound. So what I would do is I would set up a soundscape, and I would just loop that soundscape over and over and over again until the words began to flow and come out. And of course, as you know, the music itself here was just written in a loop to represent the qualities of rumination, which is like a false completeness. It's a circle, but it's not the right kind. You right? It's false circumambulation. These alarming thoughts. So that's all of the things that I learned there. Let me see if we can go to the next. This is, of course, the notes that I have here. And I would say movement 2, part 1 and 2 are were inspired by Anthony Braxton, and how Anthony brought the tradition of jazz, the folkloric aspect of jazz into the postmodern classical context, and of course his use of graphic scores and design. And what I drew from him in particularly was the idea of creating the lexicon, right? Creating your own language. So as you know, you've probably been seeing, the Anthony Braxton lexicon, where he has different shapes that represent different styles, different sounds to pull. And I tried to emulate the idea of doing that down at the bottom in the abdomen region, where I'm kind of like experimenting with creating my own notation to embark on a sound. And I wanted this like to kind of have a more, as far as like the communal aspect of making this graphic score come alive. I wanted the musicians to really think about this region of the body. Sorry, Chase, he wasn't there. He had to do it remotely. But I talked to the musicians and I said, hey, I guess I want you to think about, this part of your body. And if you notice up here, like the word association prompts here, I told them these are the words that I want you to think about. How can you emulate this sound? How can you kind of set up a visual prompt in your mind to create, stealth, but also being lost and being mad? And so a lot of all of the musicians were such troopers, because they were like, man, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, but I'm going to try. But this was a very communal oriented movement. And at the end, I wanted everybody to scream, so I wanted it to be a cathartic experience too. It's like, hey, let's get all the frustrations out. So that's kind of what lent to this this movement. And then here, I would say a lot of Toru's influence kind of crept into this this particular score here. Like the minimalism of the bass, and the sparseness of the piano playing. Kind of reminiscent to the Japanese folk music and everything. I was really. Really surprised with how that just kind of manifested when I just put all of the different parts and pieces together. But as you know, this down here, this is the pelvic region, and I was just amazed by how the anatomy and even the sensations as I was writing these pieces came up. So, this area I felt, and I was very much so thinking about the pelvic region, and the association with a ship, so being carried, it says down below, the underworld, but we also call that the unconscious. And, as it relates to trauma, it was a very difficult song to try and allow to come to to be written. It was a very, very difficult, but I'm glad that I did, because I found a lot of healing in just allowing this type of this subject matter to just have its space to be heard and loved. And I also dedicate this movement to sex trafficking and women who have been a part of that trade system that has that's still very much happening, and the value it is in making sure that we hold space and nurture this aspect of ourselves, right? Let's move on to the next. And of course, this is associated with the kidney region. And I would say, as far as the artistic influence here, Jean Lee, I felt Jean Lee's, her lyricism and how she told stories, this came through, to be very calming and peaceful. I would feel as though that's where her influence came about in the making of this. And it was really, and of course the feature here was water, and it was really, it was a really, again, cathartic experience to just, use that as that was the accompaniment. That was the accompaniment, and everything else was built around the, like all of the other compositions was built around what was happening as far as the water is concerned. So it's built around the water. And then here, I would say this is kind of more along the lines of the graphic scores was inspired by John Cage, but also it was interesting to kind of think about African diasporic music with the eyes of design as opposed to counting numerically. I feel as though this was kind of like the focal point here is like, how can we actually see the design of rhythm? Because of course it ends up being a groove in 18, but just a matter of seeing how the shapes work together was really comforting to me as a neurodivergent, and to kind of express other ways of thinking about these complexities of rhythm and sound was very exciting. And then here, this is the true circumambulation. This is the true wholeness, the practice of doing all of these things. If you think about the first movement, the head, it was a very broken mandala, right? The monologues around it were very broken, but here it's more complete, and it's kind of, as mentioned in the notes, a summation of all that we heard, all of the tetrachords that were used in the first three movements were then used here. And if you could look over here, here's another prompt that was used. This is the same tetrachord that was presented in movement 2, and so, the idea is to reimagine, okay, how can I play this same tetrachord in, from part 2 in this context with a different prompt, and it was interesting to see the choices that were made artistically there. So that's, just to explain, what I've analyzed in my own work. That's a bit about what's going on. Of course, this is the full score, with all the movements together, which is this was not intentional, but it's very likened to Michelangelo's anatomy. So there's, something really interesting there. And then one other thing that I pointed out that was interesting is that here at the beginning, I know the words are really tiny because it's supposed to be 15 feet, but it says start in silence, end in silence, right? But at the top of the monologue, it says, shh, be quiet. So shh, be quiet is kind of like that false, forcing of peace, but the overarching mandala says end in silence, start in silence, which is a part of a practice that helps keep one who struggles with anxiety on an even and healthy plane. So that's my brief.
Thank you, Nadia. I think it's so important in your creative process. So I think it was worth you explaining a little bit, and also according to Well, Miss Blau was saying, we were so sorry we had to cut out for time your video of the word association you did,
Yeah.
because that was really also very interesting. But in 20 minutes you can present everything. Anyway, any other common question from the faculty?
Nadia, I wanted to just say I'm amazed and totally moved and blown away by your music here and the ideas that it expresses and the feelings. I want to hear the whole thing very, very much. I can't wait till 2025 to when you have it on the road. I mean, I think that's a great, the Jungian certification. That's a big ambition, and I understand that taking your focus for 2 years. But I just really want to hear these pieces in their entirety, and I look forward to doing that. I didn't really know, I know you as a member of my department's faculty, and you've been wonderful and beyond wonderful in that role. Really fantastic addition to our department. And I've known some of your work, on some gigs and concerts, a little bit of your stuff that's online, and some of your collaborations in the global jazz in the last 2 years. But I didn't know you were into exactly all this stuff. And, it's an area of interest of mine. I've recorded once with Anthony Braxton, and I knew Jean Lee, and my wife worked and taught with her, and I heard her live sometimes. And this music is among many kinds of music, but I'm really into it. And your influences are so interesting to me, and we've never really talked about that aspect of things. The things I had heard you do are pretty different. Mm-hmm. Very creative and really great, but just different kind of genres and styles and stuff than this. It's amazing. I just want to say it's great, and I loved it, and it was so interesting. And just ask you one brief question. It doesn't have to be very much detail, but I'm just curious because some of us probably have wanted to make graphic scores, but we don't know how. Like, what computer program did you use to make the actual images on like a staff that's circular or things like that, or even text that's circular? I don't even know any way to do that.
Okay.
Curious
Yeah.
if you mentioned that.
Absolutely. I did everything in Illustrator. And that was that it was very time consuming. So everything is like, I use like itty bitty note heads and itty bitty lines, and it took hours to build the layers and everything. But I didn't use Finale or Sibelius. This was like completely built in Illustrator. And so of course all of the orientations of type and all of that stuff is found, and it's actually kind of more of the fundamental functions if you look at Illustrator. Now when it came to creating or finding a circular staff, that took a lot of digging. It was very hard for me to create, because I'm still learning a lot. I was doing a lot of learning, but to create a very even staff in a circular orientation, I had to do some like cutting and pasting, and I made a stamp. It's like you can make a this is, I could open up the program so you can see it, but I made a kind of like a stamp where you kind of, make an imprint imprint it onto like the workspace, and then that's how you're able to do it. So it's kind of hard to say. I'd have to talk to you. We could talk.
I see. So it's really like an art program. You had to draw everything.
Design,
notes. It doesn't come with prefabricated notes and staves that can curve and.
Well, I did find vectors, vectors of like note heads, and that saved a lot of times instead of me like creating. But
fascinating. Yeah. Okay. Adobe Illustrator. Yeah.
Adobe
I know what
Illustrator.
It is. I've never done it. That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that, because that could be useful to other people. So.
Absolutely. Great. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alan. Bruno, Chase, Patricia, do you have any comment or question for? Yes, Bruno, go ahead.
Sure. Nadia, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm completely blown away by this, and you answered a lot of questions I had already, but I feel like I've been stimulated, and all my senses have been stimulated, and including my subconscious and my unconscious. What you're hitting is like visually beautiful, orally beautiful, the poetry, and then all the depth about where the inspiration came from, how you came up with it. It's really incredible. And I remember now that you asked me once in the class, like if I could bring in a visual, a graphic score, which I never did. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I wish I did that now. Are you familiar with Julius Eastman?
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
he has. I have some of his scores. I'd be happy to share with you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Um, but I'd like to officially invite you to my class this fall to come in and do a lecture with your project.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope you accept.
Yes.
I'm
No,
I'm her manager, Bruno. You have to,
oh yeah.
yeah.
I approve as well as
No,
outgoing
but
chair.
seriously, this is really amazing, and I don't know much about it, but I'm very interested in the intergenerational DNA stamps that we all carry around. It's a very I don't know much about it, but I'm very interested in it. So, yeah, you touched on so many things. The music is beautiful, everything about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruno.
Thank you, Bruno. Chase, go ahead.
If I could jump in just for a second. Wow, Nadia.
Hey.
Wow, it's so incredible to see it all come together in this beautiful presentation. And we've had some long calls
That's right.
past months, and so I've gotten insight into the process and just the incredible depth and interconnection of these concepts. And what you've presented today just touches the surface of all the elements that you've thought so deeply about and worked on with this. And so really this presentation should be like 2 hours. I hope you have a space for that at some point. And I think I mentioned this to you once, but I really could imagine this as a larger production, as like a ballet or a whole theater piece. I mean, there's such breadth to it, and having the space, both time and just the forum to be creative and to combine the arts. This project, wow, I can imagine it going so many places. So I'm so honored that I was part of the process. I really can't wait. I know you probably need a little breather, take a little time off after so much hard work. But I really hope, we can keep on going. And I'm just so excited for how it will evolve.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chase. Yes, for your time and, for just being open and listening and just being there. I felt your presence. You was like, hey, let's tell me how you want to do it. What do you think about it? I think this is the first time you've heard it with your part in it. What you think? You like it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yay.
What are you talking about? Oh man, yeah. I really can't wait to hear it all together. Also, we only got little snippets, but the hearing it as a full extended form. That's why it needs the space. Like, to me, what's especially incredible that I don't think we heard in the presentation today is the larger form of spacing that you created, because you have such a brilliant way of creating temporal motion or stability and finding a narrative of evolution over large amounts of time. I think that's one of the also things that cues me on to why this could be a larger 2-hour production or something, because you have such a really incredible concept of the language, the narrative, and the space it needs to evolve. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chase.
In the ancestral tradition to this, I do this. Nadia Washington.
Oh.
That's how we do it. Yeah, I am so inspired, motivated. It's just to see you grow. During these couple of years. Thank you for choosing us to be a part of your life in this development. And I'm just so proud of you. I can't even. I'm so emotional right now because where I saw you going through the ups and downs of life, and coming to places where you are, and with the energy and the power, and kudos to you, Nadia. Really, what a brilliant conclusion of this part of your life you have come across.
Yeah.
The music is beautiful. I mean, there's the use of the sounds that you have replaced the drums. That's very meaningful to me. The way you have taken the drums away and replace it with sounds that are ancient. It's beautiful, great. The whole presentation with the notation, what Alan was mentioning and what everybody said, is really fantastic. I encourage you to continue. Now, the only advice I have is in this continuation that you're on, and I know you focus a lot of the center of this was around Carl Jung. I would find ways to connect to some of the African traditions that speak to certain specific points that actually could enhance this criteria. One of them I can mention you is the Gamay people of Ghana, for example. While Carl Jung is talking about a lot about individuation, the Ghana people are talking about the goal of life is not individuation. The goal of life is ancestorship. Is ownership in a collective matter of the collective memory of where we come as individuals. So this would be an enhancing new chapter to your life to connect and actually probably potential expand the Carl Jung theory. You know what I mean? That's my only advice. In other words, to include to have a more inclusive environment of the Afro-American tradition with the connections with Africa in terms of in this concept, and that will create a really nice new territories. As
Wow.
this can take us forever, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Thank you very much. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yes.
I actually, there's one writer. I don't know if Pamela knows her. Her name is Fanny Brewster.
Yes,
She wrote
I do
the
know her.
African Americans and the Jungian psychology.
Yes, I do know her actually, and I've thought often of trying to connect Nadia to her. And now what you're saying makes so much sense. It's
Okay.
so I think that would be a wonderful connection, and I completely agree with you that is the next stage, because unfortunately Jung was a racist, which is one of the
Absolutely.
terrible things we're finding out, and his ideas are very helpful, psychologically, but he stopped at he was not able to understand what you're speaking about in terms of the African traditions and their connection to ancestry and collectivity. Individuation is as far as he could get. So I completely agree.
Wow.
There is
Yeah.
more, and that would be a great direction. I will connect you to Fanny Brewster.
Oh,
Thank you.
I want to take that class with you because I really, that's my whole, I want to go that direction. Let me know when you start, Nadia, because I want to be right there with you.
Okay. Wow. Let's do it.
Pamela be teaching that? Are you kidding me? But I think this is just such a new territory, right? Right, Professor?
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's work that we're trying to start at the Jung Institute here in Boston. So, there may be some connections we can make.
Wow.
So we will keep you in mind.
Yes, thank
I'll
you.
let Nadia know.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. You learned new insights every day. Wow. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that advice, Danilo. Yes. Fanny
Nadia,
Brewster.
do you have any final word for the panel?
Marco, I'm sorry, this is Patricia. I just want
All
to
right,
congratulate Nadia and tell her, how beautiful the music and also the beautiful drawings and illustrations. And I know Marco wants one, and I want the second one.
Okay.
I want the second, and I think everybody wants one. Yeah.
I want the fourth one.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna have to talk about, send an email about that.
Okay.
Just one last comment following Danilo. Don't forget about Black and brown women. who are doing amazing work in feminism and intersectionality and the, trauma too. Patricia Hill Collins, everything in regards to intersectionality, Bell Hooks, and all these wonderful African American women and Latinx women who have gone through the same trauma. So, don't forget about them. Okay, just that's it. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Nadia, any last comment?
Wow. Just to echo what Danilo said, I feel as though this is the close of a chapter, and of course, a new one is in sight. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for allowing and creating a space where this type of project can come to birth. This type of way of thinking is encouraged, and so I just wanted to thank all of you for giving us the insight, giving us all as students insight, but also giving us the opportunity to grow. So onward and upward. Thank you all.
Nadia, I forgot to mention to everybody also that you were such an example during this year. You were doing dual roles in faculty and also doing your project. So more to you, power to you, to the work.
Thank
and
you.
Pamela, thank you very much for Professor for giving the academic depth that he needed to create this kind of presentation. That's it, everybody. Thank you.
My honor to be a part of this, truly.
Congratulations, Nadia, and thank you for this beautiful presentation. And I invite all of you to come at 2:30 for Anastasia Petrova, also final C presentation. Thank you for all the faculty and our guest, Mrs. Blau. Thank you so much. I'll see you all soon. Thank you to Jennifer, Mary, and Xenia for helping as well. And I'll see you at 2:30.